Thank you for joining the Persistence Mastery Podcast, hosted by Leon Solutions, a training company that helps to realign teams and their communication skills to help the team you have in place conquer more throughout the workday. This will be hosted by me, Paul Leon. And thank you for listening to the Persistence Mastery Podcast. Welcome to episode 3 of the Persistence Mastery Podcast, hosted by Paul Leon. So you'll have to forgive me if I sound a little raspy. I've just been getting over a cold. I was speaking and traveling this past week in Asheville, North Carolina, which actually leads me into what this subject of this episode 3 podcast is about, which is, what is sales? I think a lot of us out there in our professional lives have a perception of sales. And as I say that word sales, I want you to think about what comes to mind. What do you picture? For many of us, we may picture a used car salesman or someone who wants to take advantage of us. It's usually a negative experience that jades our perspective on what sales is. Today in this episode, I want to attempt something very, very challenging. I want to attempt to shift our paradigm around the subject matter of sales. And I have 4 key aspects on what is sales in our professional lives. Now, whether you're a doctor, a lawyer, speaker, trainer, or a sales professional, I think that sometimes we need to reframe and rethink about what this word means in our mind. So here are the 4 things I'm going to discuss in today's episode. Number 1, what is sales? Number 2, what process or vehicle is going to help the sales you are a part of? Number 3, what skills are important? And number 4, intent. Those are going to be our 4 areas around what the subject matter is on what is sales. And with that, let's jump right into it. So, for the last 2 years, I've been speaking and training on sales, but I've been in sales for 20 years. My first sales job, I used to sell door to door in Miami, Florida, corporate gym memberships. Essentially, if a sign said no soliciting, I would ignore it. And I would still walk in, try to convince someone to listen to me. And a lot of the time, as any career or any choice, there's a certain amount of rejection that's needed to overcome in order to get success. Well, in sales, I think the reason why a lot of us stray away from that word is one of the things we associate with it is immense rejection. And there is some truth to that. But the reason you might be experiencing a lot of rejection is because here's what sales is. And I want to clear this up right now. Sales is about lining up your solution or service with your target market. Let me say that again. Sales is about aligning your solution or service with your target market. Nothing more, nothing less. And I'm going to tell you what is not sales: scammer sales, or what I call scamming. There's a wonderful documentary called Telemarketers on HBO. And it was an interesting documentary. It was about one of the largest scams ever to come out in America. And a lot of people I could definitely sense other people who were probably watching this documentary saying to themselves, see, that's why I don't like sales. I couldn't lie to people. I couldn't be dishonest with people. Well, let me just say this. If your sales philosophy is to lie, cheat, steal, or misinform your customers, that's not sales. That's scamming. That's negative intent. So going back to what is sales, is lining up your solution or service with your target market is the first key thing we have to understand around this subject matter. The second thing we got to ask ourselves on what is sales is we have to ask ourselves, what sales process is how we communicate that message? What vehicle do we do? What does that mean when I say what sales process communicates your solution or service? Well, essentially, let's just take retail. Retail is more of an inbound sales process. Now, you have your solutions or services in your store, but it's really scattered. If you were to go into any type of grocery store, there's a tons of solution or services, whether you want to eat unhealthy or healthy. But there's another version of a sales process, and that's consultative sales process. This is the big one that a lot of us struggle with in our day to day. Let me explain what consultative sales process is not first before I jump into it further. It is not conversation sales. Let me say that again. A consultative sales process is not conversation sales process. Although conversation is part of it, but a lot of us who may work in a consultative sales world, whether in or out of it, if you're a doctor, you have a consultation. But again, if you're also selling a solution or service for a software company, you have a consultation as part of the sales process. But that's really only one step. See, most consultative sales processes out there typically have the understanding of what is a lead when it comes into our business. And I want to clear up what a lead is. A lead is an individual or person you can contact. Nothing more, nothing less. That is what a lead is when it comes into your funnel. But then the next step after lead is your connection step. That connection step is how we communicate and book our appointment clearly and around the solution or service we are presenting or offering to our target market. One of the most important things out there, and I'm going to give a shout out to a really strong sales program called the Rapport Mastery Sales Program. They do a great job on helping people develop a sales skill around communicating your value proposition to your target market. What do I mean by value proposition? A sales value proposition, it communicates the benefits, solutions, and results to the individual or your target market easily, effectively, and quickly. Let me say that again. A value proposition communicates the benefits, solutions, and results to your target market quickly and effectively and clearly. And this is where a lot of people struggle in most consultative sales processes, because what they do in this step before they even prioritize the consultation is they give the price right away. One of the things I've tried to teach out there is something called the buying window. The buying window is how effective we are giving an individual prospect lead proper education, experience, and relationship in considering our solution or service. And when you give price as the priority, you dilute the buying window for that individual or prospect. So let me go a little deeper. So as I go out there, and I've now trained about a little over 2,000 people in this subject matter. And the biggest resistance I usually get, I find in my training, or one of them, is just people saying, well, I need to get into price. I don't want to waste someone's time. I don't want to waste my time. And I understand that. But here's the reality I have seen in working with over 2,000 businesses this last 2 years, thousands of people, thousands of phone calls over these 2 years. What I have seen from my perspective is that those who cheat the consultative sales process pay dearly in the end. When I say pay dearly, meaning they typically have less sales or a bad reputation. However, those professionals who prioritize the consultative sales process or the consultation in their consultative sales process benefit more, have an easier time capturing more quality referrals, and can absolutely gain more traction. Now, I will tell you this. Will it take a little bit more time to do it the right way? Yes. Will it take a little bit more time and you'll have a stronger reputation so that when you get a referral, you have less resistance when it comes time to asking for the sale or producing what the investment is around your solution or service? Absolutely. But my recommendation to you is, if you're an individual who tries to cheat the sales process by giving price without a quality consultation, in your next 30 consultations, just don't give the price. Simply prioritize the benefit, solutions, and results, and then look at those next 30 consultations and see where you are. Which leads me to my next third thing. After we define what is sales, what is your solution, service, or target market, what sales process is your vehicle to communicating your solution or service, the third thing you got to ask yourself is, what skills do I need to communicate investment, not cost? Let me say that again. What sales skills do I need to communicate investment, not cost? Here's what I mean. Cost is associated with loss, investment is associated with gain. One of the things I strive and teach heavily is when you are at that point in your sales process to communicate the price. Do not communicate price as a cost. Communicate it as an investment. When I ask for the order in the many consultative sales I've done over my 20 years in the game, one of the things I wish I had learned earlier was saying, here are your investment options, Mr. Customer or potential customer. Associating investment will tell the client, here's your return on your money, here's your results. This is not just a loss of your money. See, when it comes to consultative sales, we don't want to communicate spend your money, invest your money for a return or result. Now, you might say to yourself, well, wait a minute, I'm not a stockbroker. I'm not communicating stocks as an investment. I'm not talking about that type of investment. Investment is not just money, it can be results, it could be outcome, it could be whatever. One industry I work with is, backup power. No, when you buy a backup power system for your home, you're not going to get money immediately, but it's similar to a stock. You're not always going to get money back instantly in most cases. However, if you can communicate, here's the results when you buy this system, here's your return on results for your family. So the next time you're in a power outage, you won't be without power. You won't lose your food in the freezer. You won't, boom, when you go to sell your home, you can actually charge X more when you make this improvement. So that's just one example. But again, whatever your solution or service is, you need to define in your sales process, is every step of the way communicating investment, not cost? And then what skills do I need? Skills that you need to have in a consultative sales process is open-ended questions. An open-ended question is something you cannot say yes or no to. And if you struggle with that, I would recommend an educational resource to you called Spin Selling. Open-ended questions is not new. However, Spin Selling is a phenomenal book that helps you to define what type of open-ended questions you're asking and which ones are most effective. And I think it's a really good eye-opener. And now for our last point around what is sales. In my 20 years, I've been through a lot of different sales classes, and I really do value the rapport mastery sales training, but I think you'll find a lot of value in other ones too, whether it's Sandler or other ones. But I just value that one. It seems to be the one I most align with. But one of the things I've learned about quality sales is the intent behind your solution or service is vitally important. Now, further expanding the intent. Does your solution or service have a positive or negative intent when it's offered to your target market? There's a lot of products, solutions, or services out there that really lean on more of taking advantage of people's weaknesses. And I think in just saying that statement alone, you can probably imagine what products or services are out there because they're widely known. Here's my challenge to you is, does your solution or service have positive intent to better or serve your target market? Myself personally, I prefer to align myself with companies and sales processes around the solution or service that positively helps the target market or has strong intent, whether it's to help them avoid pain to better their situation or to provide a benefit or solution to improve what's already working. One of the things I learned about sales is people don't buy change, people buy improvement more effectively. Change usually has a negative paradigm or perception around it. So here are the four key things we've really honed in on this episode on what is sales in the Persistence Mastery podcast. Number one, sales is about a solution or service that aligns with your target market. Number two, what process or vehicle drives your sales to your target market? Is it retail via an inbound, or is it an outbound? Regardless, is it a consultative sales process? You want to define that. We've talked about how to elevate that part. And then number three, what are the skills needed to communicate your solution or service as an investment, not a cost? Cost is associated with loss, investment is associated with gain or return, as we discussed. And then number four, we discuss the intent behind your solution or service. Preferably, I recommend positive intent along your solution or service. And I say all that to say this, and I'll give you an example. I used to work retail sales in the cellular phone world. And one of the things I noticed when I would compete against about 13 other sales professionals was most of them would not get on the phone. And we had a database in our CRM of leads, just people we could call and try to sell to. And most of all the 13 salespeople, there was only one person that was willing to do it. And that was me. And I'm not bragging when I tell you this story. I believe that if it's a fact, it's not bragging, it's just a fact. So there was just thousands and thousands of leads in there. And I thought to myself, why would nobody not want to call these and take these shots? Because one of the things in cellular retail, you have a lot of downtime. So I would get on the phone, I would have numerous phone calls, and I had a value proposition that communicated the benefits, solutions, or results. And I remember there was one period during my career when I was in cellular sales that it was one of the worst economic times, and this is around 2009. People were not buying as much. This was the real estate crash. Our quotas were actually increased dramatically, and every salesperson around me was complaining. Oh, that's corporate. They're taking advantage of us again. Oh, that's them. They just want to raise that so they don't have to pay as much commission. So those guys on the top can keep more money in their pocket. Just a lot of negativity. And, I've learned in my sales career the same amount of energy it takes to be negative, it can take to be positive. Let me say that again. The same amount of energy it takes to be negative, complain, it takes the same amount of energy and time to do something productive and positively. So I just got on the phone and I would call people, and sometimes I would get a voicemail, and I would leave my number 4 times. That's just the way I did it. This is Paul with XYZ Company, 407-496-6240, 407-496-6240. I was calling because I see that your cellular plan is up for renewal. We have a lot of benefits around improving communication with your team when you guys cannot be in the office. And this was obviously before remote was much bigger. 407-496-6240, 407-496-6240. And I leave my number 4 times. Now, yes, we have texting. Yes, we have email. And I recommend if you get a lead or an opportunity, do all three. Call, email, text. Well, everybody was complaining, and I had worked a lot of hours, and it was around that same time when everyone's quota was high, and a lady had came in, and she said, I'm looking for Paul. And they said, well, he's over there in the back. And I was in the back working on my priority management for the next day. And she goes, I got your voicemail. I'm the human resources manager for this consulting company. We want to renew our plan and add some new lines of service. And in one night / one day, I hit my quota for the entire month. Why do I tell you that story? I tell you that story because the more you lean in to your solution or service with positive intent over a frequency of numbers, you typically can have some pretty predictable results. 30 quality consultations a month typically is backed up by 150 to 200 phone calls a week. And it might be different for some of you, but I have found that 150 to 200 phone calls, leading to 30 quality consultations, leading to 50 to 75 follow up calls a month. Typically, those are predictable actions and numbers that if you follow as an individual sales professional, you have a hard time not hitting your quota. Will you have valleys? Absolutely. But you're also going to have peaks. And what my recommendation to you is when you're in the valley, you have to stay consistent and strong because when you're in the peak time, you're going to be the go to professional that's going to profit the most. So, thank you for taking the time to listen to episode 3 of the Persistent Mastery Podcast on what is sales. If you learned something of value, if you felt this podcast or episode could help somebody else, could you please share and like this podcast? Because this is how we can keep producing more content as we grow our audience here. And again, thank you for listening to the Persistence Mastery Podcast and have a great rest of your week. Take care.